Okay.
Everybody ready?
Here's the man.
Okay.
You're rolling.
Okay, good afternoon, and thanks again for coming on a Sunday. And I'm sorry, we'll try and keep it to an hour or less. I'm sure you've got aunties and uncles to visit and macking and everything to do. So I just wanted to clear up a few different issues that have come up over the last few days, and I've had a lot of queries and a lot of questions. This isn't an official Malaysia Airlines press conference. It's me personally as Peter Bellew. But there's just some issues came up over the last few days, so I thought it was better to answer them. It's a personal response, and first of all, I'm incredibly grateful to all my colleagues in the Malaysia Airlines family who've worked so hard with me over the last 2.5 years. We have wonderful people working there. They're able to deal with the most difficult situations and have done over the last 4 or 5 years with great strength and great faith, and they're a remarkable bunch of people. Not one person I've asked at Malaysia Airlines over these years to give the extra effort has refused. And indeed, it's been many of the people who are in their 50s and going into their 60s who've worked the hardest to help the turnaround. On behalf of my own family and myself, we're very thankful for the welcome and hospitality we received here in Malaysia in the time we've been here. This is the most wonderful country. I sincerely apologise for not being able to fulfil my contract. For education and family reasons, my wife and kids went Ballycampung in July, back to Ireland. I honestly thought I could manage it for a year or two, but I realised I need to be with my family back in Ireland, and I'm genuinely sorry for letting you down. I resigned this day 2 weeks ago. It was a very difficult thing to do, really, honestly, very difficult. Many of you in the room know me or have met me over the last couple of years, and you know how much I've enjoyed living here. At the time I resigned, I hadn't signed for a new job, and Khazanah and our chairman did everything possible over the time to try and get me to stay. But I think they couldn't understand at the time why I wanted to leave, but it's sincere, the reason. I got an offer to return to Ryanair, who have some well-publicised challenges right now. And Ryanair's my old family back in Ireland. It's Ireland's greatest company, and I'll move from being CEO here in Malaysia to being Chief Operating Officer back in Ireland. They need my help. It's a simple thing. And your word here in Malaysia, which is a wonderful word, Negaraku, that's a big part of what is motivating me. It's your special word, and that's how I feel. It's a bit about the whole Negaraku thing. I have a duty to do it. When I was asked at a press conference on the 27th September, would I go to Ryanair, I said no, and that's because I didn't have an offer, and it wasn't on my mind to do it. But a week later, I got a call, and in life, you can never say never. Sometimes things change. I'm personally looking forward to being close again to my family and my friends, 14 hours away in Ireland. The news broke about Ryanair's interest last Sunday in the UK Sunday Times. Ryanair waited until Tuesday to make a stock exchange announcement, which they have to do because they're a publicly listed company. There have been a lot of news reports and rumours and questions about Khazanah interference. And I want to be really clear about this. Khazanah are an investment fund linked to the government. They've been incredibly supportive to me personally and also corporately. They couldn't have done more. There's been no interference whatsoever from Khazanah, and I wish to make that very clear. I cannot thank Chantry Chairman enough of the airline, and Chantry Asman could not have been more supportive and did everything in his power to get me to try and stay. So it's Terima kasih to Khazanah. There's also been reports that I'm leaving due to political interference, and that is completely and utterly untrue. The Department of Transport have been more than helpful, and Minister Lau has been extremely fair in his treatment of all the airlines here in Malaysia. The Department of Tourism and Tourism Malaysia could not have done more for Malaysia Airlines in the past year, and we have worked very closely with them. And I think Tourism Malaysia do a tremendous job globally, and I hope they get their funding increased in the budget. Minister Mustafa from MITI I think, is maybe the most effective minister I've met anywhere in the world in the last 35 years of dealing with different governments. The Prime Minister has not interfered in any way, and he has genuinely encouraged me personally at every step along the road over the last couple of years. There are also reports that I'm leaving because of aircraft orders. That is completely untrue. It's 100% incorrect. There's not one shred of truth in that statement, and there was no political interference in Malaysia Airlines' decision to do an MOU with Boeing or to lease Airbus aircraft. Malaysia Airlines will need more wide-body aircraft and less narrow-body aircraft over the next couple of years. It's simple. The Chairman and I brought the MOU for the Boeing 787 aircraft to the Prime Minister in Washington, and he witnessed that for us. But it all came from Malaysia Airlines. It's nothing to do with anybody in Putrajaya. Malaysia is an amazing country. You've had 60 years of peace, incredible economic growth, unique racial and religious harmony. When I go anywhere in the country and you turn on a tap, there's clean water, superb education system. I've never personally seen anybody hungry anywhere in the country, abundant natural resources, and an incredibly vibrant culture. There was some great vision from the government over the last 40 years to build this amazing country of Malaysia. And a leader back in 1981 came as Prime Minister, and he did some great things for this country. No one connected with him has ever been in touch with me to check any of the facts that they're putting out there. I have had no interference from anyone on anything to do with running the business over the last 2 years. No interference. It's very simple. I just want a Ballycampung. Simple. I'm Ballycampung back to Ireland and back to the people I love, and it's that simple. There's no mystery, there's no intrigue, there's no controversy around that as far as I'm concerned. As some of you know, I've read just about every book I can find on Malaysia and Malaysian history over the last couple of years. In fact, some of you have loaned me books and explained to me when I've asked you endless questions about the history. I've read every book I could find on maths. Tantri Aziz has done a particularly good book on it. And I've also read Tun Mahathir's biography, A Doctor in the House, and his books of letters. Tun Mahathir highlights in his own book his failures en masse that led to some of its downfall. In fact, across 200 pages in his own book, I've actually got them marked here if anyone needs to look at it, he completely contradicts himself. On page 711, he states the company had been doing well when it was sold to Tajuddin in 1994, and his acquisition of Malaysia Airlines had been seen as a coup. On page 533, he states Tajuddin was elated over his purchase. He wanted to swap his Malaysian helicopter shares for MAS shares. The government rejected his plan and asked that he pay in cash instead, which forced him to borrow 1.8 billion ringgits. He goes on to say, I do remember wondering how Tajuddin would be able to buy the airline. But later in the book, he contradicts himself and he says, he had attempted to buy his MAS stake through Celcom shares, and he would not have to spend a sen. In the end, however, he had to borrow a lot of money to buy the shares. Had I known this, I would have put a stop to the acquisition. And it goes on with different references. In page, it is 533, he states that he knew the debt was unsustainable. So the problems in Malaysia Airlines go back a long, long way. And the damage goes back to 94 and the debt that arose from there. Malaysia Airlines is very special, and it will be to me. It's not just an airline, but it's really one of the earliest symbols of the vibrancy of this amazing country. People who've never flown ever in this country They love Malaysia Airlines. Most of the country hopes it will thrive and be the pride of the nation again. And I wish Captain Isam, my good friend and colleague, who's the new CEO of Malaysia Airlines, all the very best for the future. I hope to be a friend of Malaysia Airlines and Malaysia for the next 50 years. And if there's anything I can do for anybody in Malaysia Airlines or in this country, the love that myself and my family have for the place, it won't die. So I'm glad to take any questions.
You mentioned that you resigned 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And Ryanair only approached you.
A couple of days before I resigned, I had spoken to Ryanair, but I hadn't finalised the move going there and moving there.
So discussions were already ongoing with Ryanair before you handed in your resignation?
Yes, yes. You know, there comes a point, and I was home a few weeks ago, and it just felt much more difficult to me.
So you were in half a mind as to whether to stay or whether to leave?
Oh, I think everybody's always in half a mind about most things in life.
And given the fact that it's been 15, 16 months since you came on board into this post, how do you actually see these past few months having an impact on you taking on the position from way back in July last year?
That's for others to judge whether I've succeeded or not, I think.
I'm looking at it, I'm asking you to look in hindsight from your 2020 vision.
I think it's too close for me to really have an opinion on what, whether I did a good job or not. I think I did my best.
So, when you live in Petaling, is there some sort of penalty you have to pay to Petaling?
That's to be discussed between Khazanah and myself. They are usable. The A380 at the moment are planned to be used for the Hajj and Umrah for the foreseeable future. So they'll move into a new operation, which they're currently doing. Malaysia Airlines just completed its largest ever Hajj operations a couple of weeks ago. So there's nearly 30,000 people, and there's huge numbers on the Umrah. So that's the current plan. But it will be for the board and the new management to decide the future direction. And things in aviation are always changeable. So, but that's the current plan we have for the 380s.
As CEO, what's the plans you have for this purchase, for this?
I think it's not up to me now, and it's not even up to me to answer at this stage. There's a new CEO and there's a new exco part of the board, so it'll be up to them to decide that.
Right. I ask because from what I understand, Malaysia Airlines focus has kind of drilled down to Asia in the time that you have been with them.
Yeah.
And to have all this going, from what I understand, it's very long. It's meant for long haul flights.
It can do both, actually. So you would see the 787 is, it's Scoot down in Singapore, use it for 6 and 7 hour flights, and they use it for 13-hour flights. That's the unique property of that aircraft. It's very economical to operate 5-6 hours, or to operate 13 hours. It's a super aircraft. They're particularly good value, I believe, at the moment. And it would give Malaysia Airlines the flexibility that, let's say, Scoot, that's owned by Singapore Airlines, has. You can operate it economically 5 or 6 hours, or you could do the ultra long haul stuff if you really want. Qantas just took delivery of their first 787 last week, and they will be operating it from January from Perth all the way non-stop to London. So, but it will be up to the final decision of the new CEO and the board of what they do. But yeah, it's a fine plane. It's a little bit like a Swiss Army knife, if you know what that means. It can do everything. So.
Was the idea behind doing this purchase to then kind of have that flexibility of later on?
I think it gives great flexibility, yeah. And the aircraft are good value for money, and there's a they're very popular aircraft with finance people, so it's very easy to get financing for the aircraft. Whatever this day was 2 weeks ago, what day is today? Today's the 22nd, so it would have been the 8th. The 8th. But they did everything in their power to get me to stay for 10 days. So chairman.
And why do you think Malaysia them to resign on the 9th after they received it?
I think because they tried everything in their power to get me to stay for, and so simple as that, really.
So are they aware that you have already accepted the offer from Ryanair?
I hadn't accepted the offer from Ryanair.
So you got the offer from Ryanair on what date?
Oh, I'm not getting into the details of that. So, but I was, so it is what it is. And I thank our chairman. He's the reason I came to work here in the first place. When I met Tantri Mokno, he's a most wonderful man. I feel I have disappointed him, and that's unfortunate. But I'm Ballycampung back to my family, and it's kind of as simple as that in a way. So, CEO of an airline, it's a very dynamic thing. You have to be, your number one focus has to be on safety and security. And I don't think normally that there's not big long transitions in CEOs of airlines, because you have to, my job, I can't even go to the bathroom without bringing my phone. 24/7, anywhere I am, you get woken in the middle of the night. So I don't think it makes sense for CEOs of airlines to be hanging around for ages in transitions. It is normal because it's a safety thing. So, and regulators normally wish that when there's a change, that it happens relatively quickly.
When it comes to Malaysia Airlines?
Yeah, listen, I've no comment on New Fam or their comments really. It's I think they have their own interests, So I don't have any comment.
As a former CEO, what do you think about the staff morale now?
I think the reaction has been very positive to Captain Izam. I think people will be very happy that somebody who's been with the airline for 38 years, whose homegrown boy has come on board. He's a very charismatic gentleman, and he's spanned many different departments in the company, and he's very popular. So he's well regarded in the industry. So I think we're very lucky to get him, to be honest, and I think the staff will see that as well.
So you're leaving Malaysia Airlines. Are the condition of all the aircraft put in working condition, or are there aircraft that needs to be put away that cannot be used out of the entire fleet?
The aircraft that are there now, the average age is actually quite young. So I think the secret of airlines is to, when you were acquiring the aircraft or leasing them, to do them at the best value money deal you can do. So, and I think that's part and parcel of making sure the place is a success. But no, that the aircraft are in good shape that's there now. Take two more questions.
During your time, did you make compromises on aircraft spares when they need to be changed?
No.
Did you make compromises?
No. I think personally, anybody who knows me, and if you spoke to anybody in the airline, you would say that safety was always my number one priority at all times. I appreciate all the cooperation and the kindness shown to me by the media here in Malaysia over the last couple of years. I can't thank you enough, and I wish you would support Captain Izam. Okay. Oh, the book.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you, sir.